In the second video in this series on how kids learn, we discussed how kids learn through their senses. We learned how every person uses all their senses, but one sense is dominant and the others are weaker. We learned how when one or more of the senses are out of the normal range, that the student will struggle with academics. We also learned that there were 6 different types of learners. And there's a lady who did some interesting work with this concept. She said that this middle learning modality, she called it a bridging modality. And she said that you could use that middle modality to help the weak modality. She took a student who was a VKA. So again, if you have your normal range here, she might have been the V, K, and A. Or, it might not be that could have been that the A was in here and maybe the V was up there. So she had a VKA student, a student who was very visual, not very auditory, and her middle or bridging modality was her kinesthetic sense. This student was struggling to read out loud. Now, reading aloud is a visual auditory skill. The reader must take the visual, the written word, and turn it into the auditory or spoken word. This is very hard for the VKA student because they have to connect their strongest sense, their visual, with their weakest sense, their auditory. So what she did to help this student learn to read was she had the child sit and squeeze a ball under the desk as she was reading. So she's taking this weak skill and helping it with the kinesthetic. And so the weak skill of auditory, reading aloud. And because she was weak auditorily, that was very difficult. So she would squeeze a ball under the desk, and when she did, her reading improved greatly. You also see this with kids. Sometimes they'll put kids on a exercise bicycle while they're reading, and that will also help the student be able to read more easily, again, because you're tapping into that bridging modality. What was interesting with the work that Dawna Markova did was then she got rid of the ball, moved to just rubbing her slacks under the desk, and again, the child was able to read better. And then she had her rubbing her fingers together under the desk, and eventually she was able to give up that bridging help, that crutch, so to speak, altogether, and became a good reader. Similarly, VAKs, who often have poor eye-hand coordination, might benefit from talking through what they're supposed to be doing. That's one reason why I prefer the Peterson Handwriting program, because the student is talking through what they're doing, what they're writing, the strokes they are making as they do it, which is connecting the poor kinesthetic modality with the stronger visual modality using their bridging or auditory. And those are just a couple examples. So she did some other things. The book that she wrote was called Your Child is Smart. And then the same book was also published under the name How Your Child is Smart. So it's an interesting read. The basic gist of it is you can use that bridging modality, the bridging sense, to help build that weak area up. So that's the main point of that particular work, brings to the table. So thanks. If you like what I'm doing, hit the thumbs up. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much.